Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to another Friday Facebook Live. Happy to be back again. Pretty consistent about these, and not much going on with the coronavirus happening, so it's pretty easy to be fairly consistent about doing these every Friday. So happy to be here talking to everyone again. I hope everyone had a good week. I've had quite a busy week. Lots going on with work and kids and school and training and just trying to do it all as always. And it's been quite busy. So I'm looking forward to some downtime this weekend. Spend some time with the family. Hey Becky, how you doing? Spending some time with the family, celebrating Mother's Day, my awesome wife and amazing mom. So hoping she has a good day on Sunday. But today I want to talk about something that has been bothering me a little bit. Last week, actually, I think it was last Friday, I saw an article that came across my email, my inbox, about the amount of carbohydrates in nuts. And if you're following a low carb diet, which nut is the best for low carb eaters out there. And today I saw another article talking about the best foods to eat on a low carb diet. And they were saying in that article to be careful of some shellfish, because some shellfish have carbohydrates in them, which actually I didn't know until a few years ago. Who would have thought that shellfish have carbohydrates in them? I'm not really sure where the carbohydrates come from, to be honest with you. But the reason why I want to talk about this is because to worry about the amount of carbohydrates in nuts and shellfish is, in my opinion, pretty ridiculous. I don't think you need to be concerned about your carbohydrate intake and being, if you're following ketogenic diet, being kicked out of ketosis from eating shellfish or nuts. So I went into my cabinet, and we happen to have quite a bit of nuts in my house for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't eat them that much, but kids and my wife like to snack on them. So we have some pecans here. We got some macadamia nuts, which macadamia nuts, by the way, these are probably my favorite type of nuts. They're great. We got some almonds, and we got some walnuts here, and I got some cashews. And as you can tell, we are big fans of Thrive Market. We get a lot of our nuts from. Oops, take off that stuff. But I went through and did some calculations on those. How many carbohydrates are in these nuts? And the article was doing some calculations based on about 3.5 ounces of nuts, and calculating the carbohydrates in 3.5 ounces, which is about 99 grams, 100 grams of nuts, and that equates to a little less than half a cup. So not a lot. You probably grab a handful of nuts, and that'd be equal to pretty close to 100 grams or 3.5 ounces, which is pretty easy to do, and it quickly adds up. So I went through and did some calculations, and so the article had the following carbohydrate content counts for those nuts. And these are net carbohydrates, not total carbohydrates. So it's subtracting out the fiber that's in the nuts. Cashews came in at 22 carbohydrates, and that 22 net carbs. That's the highest. Macadamia nuts were 5 net carbs. Almonds were 9 net carbs. Walnuts 7, and pecans 4. Now, as someone who has been tracked food for a while, I know that those numbers, as far as carbohydrate counts, are pretty minimal. Cashews is a little high, but I'll tell you why you shouldn't even be concerned about that anyways. So for 100 grams of cashews, that equates to 528 calories. 528 calories for a handful of nuts. For macadamia nuts, that would be 707 calories. Almonds are 561 calories, walnuts are 693 calories, and pecans are also 693 calories. So, if you're concerned about the carbohydrate content of the nuts that you're eating, I suggest you be more concerned about the caloric intake that you're getting from these nuts. So, yeah, cashews has 22 net carbs in it, and that might be a big chunk of carbohydrates if you're trying to limit yourself to something like 30 grams of carbs or something like that. But you're also getting pretty much an entire meal's worth of calories in a handful of food, right? And there's not really much else in there, right? Some of these, like almonds and one or two other ones, they have a little bit of protein in them. Yes, David, thank you for validating my thought here. Yes, definitely more attentive about calories than carbs. Some of the nuts have more protein in them than others. Some might have some micronutrients, more micronutrition in them than others. Like, for example, like if you look at Brazil nuts, they're well known for having a lot of selenium in them, and if you're deficient in selenium, it's a good source of selenium. But you really only need to eat one, I think it's like one Brazil nut to get a decent amount of selenium, maybe one or two. Certainly not 3.5 ounces. But the calorie count in the nuts is what actually adds up. It's not the carbohydrates, right? So if you had like a normal serving of nuts, of cashews, like 100 calories worth of cashews, which is, maybe a reasonable snack. That's a fifth of 22 carbs, right? So you're looking at maybe 4 net carbs or something like that. So, yeah, if you had if you're looking at these things for snack wise, and you had an appropriate caloric intake for a snack, not an entire meal's worth of calories, the carbohydrates are very minimal in all of them. So you don't worry about the carbohydrates. Worry about the calories. And many people are turning to these nuts because they're on a low carb diet. A lot of people because of weight loss, etc. And they want to lose weight, but yet they're snacking on nuts. And they have a small handful of nuts, which they think, this is a nice little snack, and they're taking in 700 calories if you eat a handful of macadamia nuts, right? I mean, 700 calories is more than a meal's worth of calories for a large majority of people. So you have to be extremely careful with these nuts, and I don't care what kind of diet you're following. Nuts are all about the calories and not about the carbohydrates. Now, to the other one, which was shellfish. Shellfish being having some carbohydrate content. Yes, some shellfish do have carbohydrate content. I don't know why, like I said, where they come from, but just to give you an idea, 3.5 ounces, about 100 grams of the following shellfish have these carbohydrates. So clams have 5 grams of carbohydrates, mussels have 7 grams of carbohydrates, octopus have 4 grams of carbohydrates, oysters have 4 grams of carbohydrates, and squid have 3 grams of carbohydrates. So these are extremely low amounts of carbohydrates. I don't care if you're trying to limit yourself to 20 grams of carbs in a day, which is absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that in the first place. These are extremely low amounts of grams of carbohydrates, and the nutritional value of shellfish are far outweigh any concerns with carbohydrates at all. For example, oysters is an incredible source of zinc, right? If you had 3.5 ounces of oysters, you get an incredible amount of zinc, which can be hard to find in other places and lots of people are deficient in. And also it's not huge caloric intake like these nuts are, right? So you look at 3.5 ounces of oysters, and I think it's like 100 or 150 calories, maybe something like that. So super small caloric intake. That is like a snack amount size of calories as well as carbohydrate intake. So don't be concerned. Don't turn down the shellfish because of caloric intake. They're super nutritious, and lots of them also have great sources of protein and have a lot of other nutrients in them that you can probably benefit from. So if you're following a low carb diet, please be realistic with yourself. Yes, if you have a decent size amount of cashews, for example, you're going to get a decent amount of carbohydrates, but you're going to get far more calories. If you have a decent amount of shellfish, some may have some carbohydrates in them, but you're providing so many more nutrients and so many other things like protein and whatnot to your body that the amount of carbohydrates in there are negligible, right? So don't worry about it. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. I find it completely ridiculous for people to be worried about these things, and just use your brain. It's not all about just a single macronutrient. It's not all about carbohydrates. It's about the entire nutritional profile of the food that you're eating. So if you're going to be concerned about macronutrients like carbohydrates, look at the other macronutrients. Look at the fat content. Look at the protein content. Look at the micronutrients in there. Look at the calories that come along with that, because it's more than just carbohydrate content, insulin response that a lot of people in low carb space try to promote out there. So with that, I'll sign off for this Facebook Live on Friday. I appreciate everyone joining and watching, and if you have any questions, please reach out. You can direct message me, post a comment, send me an email. Of course, I'm going to ask you all to go and sign up for my newsletter if you haven't done so. It's rjbhealth.coach, and there's a link at the top that says newsletter, and just click on that and you can sign up. You get some weekly content, replays of these Facebook Lives, blog posts that I'm putting out, interesting links, special stuff like that. That'll all delivered to your inbox weekly. And with that, I'll say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and I will talk to everyone next week. Thanks for joining.